Well, Rosanna's off in Sweden and I'm here in a green studio in London. But with the use of a bit of tricky TV technology, we're in Jerez. It's the end of F1 testing and we're going to do a little bit of a roundup. The reason all the teams have to test in the same place is very simple. It's just to stop anyone getting a competitive advantage over the smaller teams. The boys like Ferrari could just test all year at Maranello if they wanted to. Look what happened with Michael Schumacher when he was there. They're not actually looking for speed at the minute. They're giving the drivers an opportunity to drive the car, find out any issues, aerodynamic, design flaws, etc. So, good, bad, and ugly. Well, actually, Felipe Massa's leading the good section at the minute. He was the only driver to break a 1 minute 18 lap time, and he put in a respectable 85 laps on test 3. Going back to the whole point, the more lap times, the more consistent they are. It's good news for the Italians, and there'll be some deserved backslapping going on in the Italian corner this evening. Following up closely on their heels is Lotus. By all accounts, they really have entered the top of the F1 playing field this year. It remains to be seen how they'll fare in competition, but a solid 95 laps on day 2 and the fastest time from Grosjean is very encouraging. Kimi Raikkonen pulled up after 40 laps and a 4th fastest time yesterday. But that's the point of testing. Find out the niggle with the car at Jerez and prevent it from happening at Melbourne. Surprise, surprise, the boys at Red Bull F1 have had a really good start with the RB09. It's still very much in the evolutionary stages from the 2012 RB08. However, it's now purple to reflect their closer partnership with the car company Infinity. Vettel's words were sprinkled with sensible caution about it being too early to tell that the car's a championship winner at this stage. Vettel and teammate Mark Webber have both agreed that the team has had a better start than they did in 2012, which, by the way, is when they won a world championship. So watch this space is all that we can say to that. McLaren. They started the year with a 5-hour fuel pump issue on day 1. So Jensen twiddled his thumbs, the mechanics got worried. But by the afternoon, all memories of that were forgotten, as he put in an incredibly quick time round the track and came out all smiles in front of the media afterwards. It was all smiles too for Sergio Perez, who's got behind the wheel for the first time and reported that he's really happy with the 2013 car. On top of all that, there was a really nice surprise this week to see the Marussia F1 team putting in a 78-lap test with rookie Max Chilton. They've got a new KERS system on the car, which we're all hoping will allow them to move up into the midfield. Fingers crossed it works really well for them this year. So far, so good. Unfortunately, not all the teams have had that luck. Let's look at the bad. Mercedes, for instance. This is with a pinch of salt. Nico Rosberg put in a massive 148-lap performance on Thursday, but it wasn't a smooth start. He pulled up on day 1 after smoke started billowing out of the back end of the car, and there was the usual excuses that it was a minor electrical fault. Well, for that you can read, they didn't have a clue. But it was back to business as usual the next day. Meanwhile, we've all seen what happened to Lewis Hamilton and that slip off the track into the tyre wall after a brake defect. Oh dear for Lewis. Let's hope it gets better at Barcelona for him. So much for the bad. Now let's look at the ugly. I've reserved this for moments that just should not have happened this week. And unfortunately the start of that is the Jerez track. Speaking in F1 terms, it's roughly having the same effect on this season's Pirelli tyres as a cheese grater. Whether or not it's an excuse for poor performance, all of the teams have come out and had a good old complaint about this. Let's hope that changes in 2014. Sitting next to that, firmly in amongst the ugly, is James Rossiter's crash. Rossiter managed to send a mechanic flying in the pit lane after hitting him with a decent clout after pulling in for testing. Luckily, there were no serious injuries, although I can imagine Rossiter's got a slightly bruised ego now. So what have we learned? Not much. These are F1 cars. They're two complicated pieces of equipment to just put on a track and know how they'll be performing for the 2013 World Championship. We've still got 2 more sessions of testing at Barcelona and we're going to be covering them as well. That's when we'll get a much better idea of how things are looking. Make sure that you subscribe to us to keep up with the latest news.